Today I'm going to talk about the new digitizing software from Designer's Gallery called Creator. How many of you guys already have Embroidery Works? Bunch of you. All right, good. That means I've done my job. Designer's Gallery Creator will install on top of Embroidery Works, but Embroidery Works is not required to run it. But if you already have Embroidery Works and you buy Creator, Embroidery Works essentially becomes Creator. Okay, there's 3 levels of the Designer's Gallery Creator. There's a level 1, 2, and 3. And I'm going to go through the differences between all of them. And everything from the previous version is going to be true about the next version when I go on. So I'm just going to talk about the differences as we go through. I am really excited about this program because I've been using digitizing programs for about 15 years now. I know pretty much how they all work, and this one works differently than any other one I've ever used, which is a good thing because there's a lot of really irritating things about embroidery software, as any of you who have embroidery software know. I'm just going to kind of jump right into level 1. So this Designer's Gallery Creator level 1 is going to retail for $239.95. The SoFair price for it is $199. That's the pre-order price. It's actually not even out yet. I have been promised that it is going to be released on the 12th of November. So they told me originally that it would be out mid to late October, and then when they actually gave me a date, they said November 12th. So that is the pre-order prices for level 1 is $199. And level 1 gives you a huge amount of really neat things. So the first distinction that there is, and can everybody see the screen? Good? Okay. The first distinction, can you see my mouse on the screen? Because I'm going to use that to point, because I can't get up and point at the screen. The first distinction is that there's a lot less buttons than there is in any of the other digitizing programs like Floriani or Masterworks. You've got buttons everywhere. And with this, it's really been streamlined to the point where there's not all these crazy buttons. Like if you look at this, there's like 12 buttons here. This is all of the digitizing buttons in the whole program for level 1, all right? So you don't have a million buttons staring you in the face. And the tools are broken up into 2 sections. There's a drawing section here. All right, so everything on this side is for drawing shapes, and then there's a stitch section here. So this section here is for turning artwork into stitches. And there's a variety of ways to get artwork into this program. This does not have a quote-unquote auto-digitizer built into it. Okay, like you've probably seen me do, if I've ever demoed you software before, turn a cartoony type image into an embroidery design in a few clicks. This doesn't have a thing that just automatically creates an embroidery design, but those really don't work all that well. You kind of have to pick your images to be able to have that work. So what this program's going to do is it's going to force you to learn to digitize, but it does it in an easy way. So the way that we're going to get our first image in is I'm going to bring it up as a backdrop. Is there anybody who doesn't know what a backdrop is? Okay, so a backdrop is an image that's going to come up and be part of the background of my designs area. So this is my design area in here, this like yellow area with a grid in it. And what the backdrop does is it's kind of like if you're holding a piece of paper up against a window. It's something to trace off of. All right, so that's how digitizing is done. That's how professional digitizers do it. They're not using automatic, auto digitizing tools. But they're not drawing freehand either. At least most of them aren't. They're tracing off of a JPEG or something like that. So this button here brings in a backdrop, and so I can go in and pick. Let's see. What'll I do? I'll just do this image right here. So this is just like a little design that I can use. So I have a bunch of different ways of turning this into stitches. The easiest way is going to be a tool called the Magic Wand tool. Now, most programs have a magic wand. This one's magic wand is special because of two things. One, it's very sensitive, so it's very good at tracing a shape exactly. And when you use a magic wand tool in embroidery software, what it's going to do is it's going to take one area of color, like say this green area here in the top part of this design, and you click on it once and it traces it. So it's got the outline of this area. So I have my magic wand tool here, and I can just click and it traces my area very quickly. I just click on it once and that area is traced. And if I right click, I'm no longer in the magic wand tool, and the area that I clicked on is selected. So at this point I can turn it into a stitch. So the most basic stitch to turn this into would be a fill stitch, which just fills in an area with stitches like wall to wall. And I have all these different stitch tools over here to choose from, and I'm going to go through each one kind of in depth, but for right now I'm just going to click on it. So now that's stitches. So I could take this, and here I'll zoom in so we can see it a little better. But this is now stitches. Okay, so I've created this little area of stitches, and notice what color is this? It's green. Did I tell it to make it green? No, because this program will actually, the magic wand will pick the color for you. So if you're digitizing with the magic wand, and if you've got good quality artwork, you can do that a lot of the time, it will automatically pick your color. So if I go in here and I click on this purple area, and then I tell it to make this a fill, it automatically makes it purple for me, and I don't have to go in and tell it to do that. So I really like that. It saves a little bit of time there. Doing that.
Can the image be any JPEG?
Yes, it can. It can be any JPEG. And in order for the magic wand to work right, you are going to need a large JPEG, one that's they call it high resolution, basically. And I have some video tutorials that show on my YouTube channel, which I'm going to show you later on in here. If you don't know how to get to my channel, I'll show you how to get to it, how to navigate it, and find the different videos. But I have a video that shows specifically how to use Google to find artwork that is good for things like this magic wand tool.
What's that line?
It's just an artifact of the way that it represents the stitches with the 3D. If you zoom in, like, it kind of starts to go away. If you turn off the 3D, then you see that it's not really there at all. The program, it's trying to render what stitches look like, and it, it's not photo exact to what stitches look like. So you can't really, like, see there's one here on the purple. That's not really there. When you sew this out, that doesn't show up. And most of the time when I'm digitizing, I actually have 3D turned off, because you can see what your stitches look like a lot better. You can actually see where each line of stitching is going. So if you're learning to digitize from me, you'll probably have your 3D turned off anyway. I have it turned on so you can see it well on here. But anyway, so that's one way to bring artwork in, is with the magic wand tool, and we're going to go to that again and again throughout this class. I'm going to be just grabbing the magic wand, and I'll say I'm going to wand in this artwork when it's time for me to do that. That's what I mean. I'm using the magic wand tool to trace an area quickly and efficiently. Now, do professional digitizers use the magic wand tool? No, they don't. They're tracing their outlines manually, and that's what I will teach you to do when we learn to digitize. I'm going to have a club for this, just like some of you may know already. I have a Masterworks club that meets monthly, although sometimes I don't get enough people to sign up, so it gets canceled. But I do every month. I have Floriani Club, where I make a project and we all work together and make the design. I'm going to do the same thing for this program, and I'm going to teach everybody who buys the software to digitize with it. But so the next way that we can bring in artwork is with a line tool, which is going to draw an outline just by clicking, click, 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 click. So I can use this to left click along. So right now, say I'm going to trace this area of the blue. I'm going to go from basically here to here of this blue outline. Now, what this tool does that's neat is, by default, it's in curve mode. Okay, so it's going to make pretty curves without me having to tell it to do that by hitting a button, or like in most digitizing programs, you have to hold down the control key to make a curve happen. In this, that's the default state. So I can make, and this probably isn't the best example of this, but here, I'll keep going around this so you can see it curve. See how it made this weird curve here? That's not what I wanted it to do right there, but if I continue clicking here, it will self-correct and start turning it the right way. Okay, and then once I'm done tracing my outline, I can always go back and fix any curves that got wonky. So I can just take this and then move the lines around until it's the way that I want it to be. Okay, now, so that's kind of the second thing that is really, really neat about this program. Let me get rid of this backdrop image because I want to show you something just by drawing. I'm going to use, this is another tool, it's called the pen tool.
Was the last one the line tool?
The last one, what do they call it in this program? They call it draw with points. I'm going to refer to it as the line tool.
Okay.
How I am. I call that a line tool. When you click and it just makes a line from one point to another. But I'm going to use the pen tool real quick, which is just a freehand draw, just holding down my mouse button and drawing something in. So when you have any element that you draw in, I just drew in this line here. It's automatically, when you select it, the little points come up. Okay, and does everybody know what these points are? They're nodes where I can move the line. So probably a better example of this would be if I had a shape that was, I didn't mean to get into shapes this quick, but let me just grab a shape, because that line was kind of messy. All right, so I've got this cloud, and in every other program in the world, if I want to adjust the lines of this cloud and move the outlines around, I would have to use two separate tools. First, I have to select it using a tool called the select tool, and then I would have to go into a separate tool called the shape tool, which, or they may call it a reform tool in some programs, and then it's going to come up and have these little nodes. See where I've got these little white dots? These nodes would come up, but I'd have to go into two separate tools. In this, my select tool and my shape tool are the same tool, so I can always go in and move these points around to change the way that my shape is. Not only that, but I can actually, if I don't want to mess with points and I just want to edit the line directly, I can just click on a line and move it. There's no other program in the world that does this, digitizing program. Okay, so I can adjust my points either by using these nodes, or if I don't want to worry about the nodes, I can just move the lines, move the nodes. I can change, what this is doing when I move this line here is it's adjusting these Bezier curves, but nobody knows how to use Bezier curves. That's what this little handle is. It's called a Bezier curve. I don't know how it works. Does anybody here know how to use Bezier correctly? Probably not. I've never even met anybody that knows how to use Bezier. So they completely eliminate it basically by making it so you can just grab the line and move it the way that you want it, and you can see visually what it's doing, right? Without having to mess with these little handles. Okay, so I really, really like that. And then another cool thing is to create a new point to edit from. Instead of having to go in and right-click and then look through 50 options and choose add point or whatever it is that the program that you're using calls it, you just double-click. Double-click adds a point. I'm not used to this mouse. There we go. And then I can move it around. And double-click also gets rid of a point. So, I mean, that's pretty streamlined. You know, I'm not having to go in and interrupt what I'm doing to go in and then right-click and then try and figure out which one of these is add point. It's just right in there. So that's something that I really like about the both the drawing tools, and anytime you have any kind of artwork at all selected, this is going to behave this way. So if it's a shape that I've brought in from one of the built-in shapes, or something that I wanted in from a JPEG, I can go in and edit these points to make my artwork exactly how I want very easily. So I like that. So speaking of shapes, this has a ton of shapes that are already built into the program that are very useful and good shapes. There's an icon up here that looks like a little gear. Those of you who have Embroidery Works are familiar with this little gear icon. This is how you bring in the AccuQuilt shapes in Embroidery Works. But if you're in creator mode, then it comes up with all of these custom shapes that we can go, and any of these shapes can be instantly turned into embroidery. Okay, so say I want to get this teddy bear and turn this into an applique. I'm going to go ahead and size it up a little bit. So I've got this shape. Now this is the same as if I drew this in off of a backdrop or wanded it in. It's the same type of shape. It's artwork, which can be directly turned into stitching. So now we're going to look at my stitch section over here where we've got all these different stitch icons. This is a run stitch. So if I want to turn this into a running stitch, I just left click on run stitch and it instantly turns into a run stitch. All right, so this, I could take this and save it. Just go up to File, Save As, and put it on my embroidery machine and sew it out. I'd have a very simple running stitch outline of this teddy bear. But check this out. I have all these properties in here. Down in the lower right-hand part of my screen is my properties menu. So I have not just a single run here, but I can change it to a double, a bean. So a double run means it's going to run over it twice. A bean means it's going to run over it 3 times. And then we've got some other interesting options here. We've got chain. So this is a chain stitch. Okay, so I can turn it into that. And what am I not doing as I'm doing this? Anybody notice? I'm not applying. There's no apply button. Everything that you do happens instantly in this program. There's no having to go and remember to hit apply after you make your changes. It just does it. So I really like that, especially, and this sounds really goofy, but for people that have smaller laptops, I have found in every one of the classes I've ever taught on software, there's been at least one person whose laptop, the screen is so small that the apply button in their properties menu gets cut off. And those of you who've had this happen, you know exactly what I'm talking about here. You don't have to worry about that. There's no apply button to get cut off. And so as soon as I saw that, I thought of all of you guys with that have to like move your menus around to have an apply button. Anyway, so we've got these different options for, we got back stitch, we've got a stem stitch. Oops, I didn't mean to. There we go. I rolled my mouse and it changed my options. So there's a stem stitch, which is that kind of like sideways zigzag. And for all of these, I can go in and change the properties of this. If I want to change the width of my stem stitch, I just move a slider and you can see the changes that you make right away. Okay, and then on the stem stitch is actually cool. You can change the rotation at the same time. Let me zoom in a bit so we can watch it change the rotation. We take this, it's right now at a 45-degree angle. Look at that. So you can see what you're doing as you do it. It's really pretty neat. Okay, so that's just the properties of a run stitch. We can go in and do this, but let me set this to. Oh, and there's also a Sashiko stitch. Which did anybody have the Sashiko Interactives program? This is the stitch from the Sashiko Interactives program. If you don't know what that is, it's a stitch that simulates the look of what the Sashiko machine does. It obviously can't do exactly what it is, but it makes it look more like a hand sewing stitch than a normal running stitch does because it thickens up every other stitch, basically. And it'll do that automatically for you if you tell it to do it as a Sashiko. So that's a great thing for doing outline stitches where you're doing like geometric shapes and you want to have it, look like that Sashiko look. And you can even, with this program, you can preview what a repeated Sashiko design would look like. I'll show you that in a minute. I think I have that in my notes here at one point to show you. Yes?
While you're there, normally when you do a trace and you apply the stitches, there's a start and stop. How do you get to see the start and stop?
Okay, so the question is, how do I see my start and stop points when I create an area of some stitches? And that's a good question. The place that you would normally see that in a digitizing program is in the shape or reform tool. You have to select your object and then choose shape or reform. And then in some programs, you may have to even tell it to specify to look for the start and stop points. In this program, your start and stop points are always visible, and they are right here. I keep moving my scrolling my mouse in. If I select my object, we can actually see this little green bow tie, this little green bow tie, and this little red bow tie. Those are my start and my stop points. So they're always visible on any element that I have selected that stitches. You'll always be able to see your start and your stop point. Not only that, if you have an area that's a fill or a satin stitch, you will always be able to see the stitch direction. So there's no separate thing to have to go into and to see that. So just real quick, I'm going to go ahead and change this bear into a different type of stitch. I'm going to make it a fill. And this line right here with the yellow ends, this is my stitch direction. So that's always visible. And my start and my stops are there too. And it remembered where I wanted my start and stop point also between the different types of stitch. So it didn't regenerate it so much that my start and my stop points are changed. So if I have an element that I digitize and I have my start and my stop set perfectly and I change my mind about what type of stitch I'm using there, it will retain your start and your stop points, which is awesome. So, all right. So anyway, I'm getting kind of more technical than I meant to really here, because something else that I really want to show you is that your properties will follow along with you as you digitize a design. So what do I mean by that? Let me go ahead and get a back stitch, or no, a stem stitch going. All right, so we've got the stem stitch and the settings are what they are. I will set the width to be a little wider so we can see it. We'll set our angle to be at about 45. Okay, so we see this is what the stem stitch looks like. Now I'm gonna just draw in an area. Okay, so I've got this little element here, and I'm gonna apply a run stitch to it. See what that just did? It kept the same properties of the run stitch that I created last. So it's assuming that I want all my run stitches to be the same. So if I use a 3mm stitch length on my run stitches when I draw them in, if I draw in one run stitch and set it to that, all the next ones are going to be 3mm too. I don't have to go back and change each one as I draw them in, which is a huge time saver for if you're digitizing manually. It makes all the difference in the world not to have to keep going back and changing each one. And it does that for every stitch in here. So whether I'm digitizing freestanding lace or I'm digitizing an applique, the properties of that object, it's going to remember them. Now I can clear that out so it doesn't remember it. You know, if I don't want it to, I can turn that off. But I love that. I think it's a really, really excellent feature. And it's one that I think's been a long time coming. Like, why haven't we been able to do this before? Okay, so back to the stitches. There's lots of other types of stitches we can do. So that was all off of the run stitch. We've also got a satin stitch. Well, I should specify a satin border stitch here, which is going to create a satin stitch outline around whatever the shape is that we have. So this creates a real nice satin stitch, and we can go in and we can adjust the stitch width, and again it'll automatically make it larger. We can go in and increase or decrease the density of the stitch, so if we want it thicker or we want it thinner, we can do that. And again, it's going to remember what the settings are. So if I go and I draw another satin stitch in, it's going to go in and set the same properties for that. Something else that's really, really cool that they added in to this satin stitch, though, is you can adjust the ends of a satin border stitch. Okay? Now, in every other digitizing program I've ever seen, if you create a satin stitch that's just an outline like this, that's not a closed shape, what you get is a shape with square ends like this. Okay, does everybody know what I'm talking about there? The end of the stitch is totally square, and there is no way at all to take a straight line, turn it into a satin border, and then have those ends be anything other than a square end. Okay? No program that I've ever seen has done anything other than that. If you want to have a taper coming off the end of it, or you want to have a little ball on the end of it, or whatever you want the end of the stitch to look like, you have to digitize it yourself. You have to draw a shape like, let's see, so I'd have to draw a shape like this. If I wanted to have, say, a taper, where it comes to a point at the end, I'd actually have to draw in a shape and then apply my satin stitch to it. And in this case, it actually worked nicely with the automatic satin stitch, but it doesn't always. So here, I actually had to draw that shape in to make this tapered end. You see what I mean? That's different than drawing one straight line. So check this out. I can take this element here and I can tell it that I want to have a nib, they call it. So the nib at the start, I want to be pointed, and there it automatically puts the taper on it. Okay? And then there is a nib at the end, and it's the reason that we can't see it on here. I don't think you can. Do you see nib at end?
Yeah.
No. Okay. Well, the screen and the projector and my computer are different resolutions, so it's not translating exactly right. But so I can put the one at the end. We'll make it rounded so you can see both of them. So there, I've put a nib on the end of this that's pointed, a nib on the end of this that's rounded. All right, isn't that cool? I really, really like that. And you can also stretch this out. Like if I go in and I grab the end of this, I can stretch that out a little. Or you know what? I figured out how to do that last night. There's a way to stretch this out. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head right now. But I was messing with this program last night. I figured out a way to stretch your nib out. What? All right, so another cool thing that we can do with this is we can change the line thickness throughout the design. If I go in here and change this line thickness, I have these different options. So this one goes from thinner to thicker.
There you did.
This one goes from thinner to, goes the opposite way. I can have it so that it's thinner in the middle, fatter on the ends. Isn't that cool? I love this. Fatter in the middle, thinner on the ends. Okay, so you can imagine a lot of uses for this. These are all things that in the past I would have had to manually draw the outside edge of this and then manually assign the inclinations, which is the stitch direction on a satin stitch. Manually do that to make any of these shapes, and this, it does it automatically. So these
in the first level?
I'm sorry? Yeah, we're still at $200 right now. Okay, I know. When Brian Bailey, the guy that wrote this program, was telling me about the things that this does and telling me how much the program costs, I was just like, you're going to put all the other digitizing program companies out of business. Now that said, there is a lot of stuff that Floriani does automatic things that it does that are very nice and very useful. Same with Masterworks. This program is not an editing program, by the way, so you can't take an existing embroidery design and mess with it, okay? This is digitizing only. All right, so don't feel bad if you've got Floriani or you've got Masterworks 3 or you've got whatever you've got, because those things are also very useful. But for many things, this is really, really good. And for anybody that doesn't have any software and is afraid to buy software, this is the best digitizing software you could buy, bar none, period, because it's not that huge. I don't want to downplay $200. It's $200, but you're talking thousands of dollars for a lot of digitizing software, and this does all kinds of crazy stuff. I haven't even gotten out of the satin stitch tool yet. All right, so there's more that I could show you on the satin stitch tool, but I'm actually going to show you some more of that later. So let's get out of this. I want to show you some applique stuff. So I can go in and select the same bear. I'm tired of this bear. Let's bring in a different shape. So we can go in and let's say, we like the turtles. We'll do this turtle. I like him. Okay, so you see that it brings it in and it's got a default size, but you can go and change the size. Here's a hint, by the way, for every computer program in the world that has these corner sizers. You know what happens when you go like this? It moves your design around, right? If you grab it from the corner. But if you grab one of your corners, this is Masterworks, Floriani, whatever you got, I don't care. Hold down the Shift key. Sizes it in place. All right. You can take that with you. All right, so so that's a cool trick. But anyway, so we make our turtle a little bit bigger here, and this button here is the applique button. So I'm going to left click on that, and it will automatically turn my turtle into an applique. And I can, of course, change all kinds of stuff about the applique stitch. By default, it does an E stitch, but I can change that to a blanket stitch where it's only got the one bite instead of the big bite and the little bite. I can change it to a satin stitch, and again, I can change my stitch width and have that adjust automatically for me. I can make it just a regular zigzag, so it looks like somebody just took a sewing machine and zigzagged it, like a tackle twill kind of thing. Yeah.
You still have to do the placement line and the cutting line.
Yeah, it does that for you automatically. It adds in the placement line, it adds in the cutting line for you, but you can, the same as you can do in Embroidery Works, you can actually take the cut line for this and send it over to a Cameo cutter, or if you're got a brother scan and cut for some reason, you could use it for that too. Or any other plotting machine, anything that's a cutting machine, this will export to a format that a cutting machine will read. No matter what your cutting machine is, it'll do FCM, it'll do Studio, it'll do SVG, it'll do AI, some other stuff. You can export whatever type of artwork you need out of this program to get it to a cutting machine, no matter what your cutting machine is. So that's very cool. we can, where was I going with this? Oh, so we can go in and tell it that this is going to be an applique, and even have it preview what it's going to look like as an applique.
Nice.
And you can change the color too. It automatically picked a color for it, but I just go in here and hit this and tell it it's a different color, probably a green, right? So there's a turtle. Okay. Oh, and I forgot to hit. Okay, so we go to applique, simulated. Okay, so there we've got our simulated green turtle here, right? And then we could add other details on top of them if we wanted to. And from that interface is where I'd be able to send it to the cutter. I have a whole video on sending sending embroidery designs to the cutter, and also that's what Kathy did on Thursday, I think. And I have that video ready to go up on YouTube, so you'll be able to watch a much more in-depth how to do sending embroidery designs to the cutter to be cut out your appliques for you. But anyway, appliques, we have all kinds of different things we can adjust for this, the stitch width, the type of applique stitch that it's going to be, and that is very handy. So you can make an applique, like a simple applique like this, out of just about anything. And you can, using that magic wand tool. So you can actually go in and click on, with the magic wand, click on an area in a JPEG and turn that area into an applique very quickly and easily. And you can take any true type font. Everybody know what a true type font is? Is there anyone that doesn't know? Okay. You don't know what a true type font is? They're the fonts that are built into your computer. Like if you were to use Microsoft Word and there's a list of fonts, those are all what are called true type fonts. And that's just what your computer uses to render text on the screen. And the thing about a true type font is it's an outline file. That's why you can change the point size in Microsoft Word to, 72 points or 100 points or whatever, and the letter gets really huge and it doesn't start looking blurry. That's because all that a font file is an outline. And because it's an outline, we can turn it instantly into embroidery. And this program knows that. So I can go in and let's get rid of this turtle, bring in a true type font here. Let's see, I got Wingding selected. Let me pick something else. I like this one. So say we want to do a big M for meadow, right? Okay, so M. Much better. So now this is, again, it's the same thing as those shapes that were built into the program. It's the same thing as anything that I wand in or just draw in myself. So therefore I can turn it directly into applique. And remember, it remembers my settings for the applique. So the stitch width and the stitch type are the same as what I had chosen for my turtle before. And this I could go in and export the applique, save it as a cut line for my Cameo cutter or whatever I have, just like I could for that turtle.
Brad, when you turn
yeah.
your computer off, do all the settings go away? When you
In level 1, yes. It is not going to remember your previous settings once you close the program. So if I close this off, everything's going to go back to the defaults. It's level 3 which I'm going to get to, hopefully. I keep talking about level 1. I may not get out of level 2. But yes, if you're in level 3, you can actually save styles for specific types of projects. So I'd be able to say, okay, I'm in applique creating mode, and I load up my presets for creating a certain type of appliques. Maybe I'm doing split appliques. Like anybody who is in that that class that Kathy did where she made a split applique on the Destiny. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, you can do that in this too, and it's like a lot easier. But create a split applique where you take a big letter and then cut it out in the middle so you can put a little decoration in the middle. So I'm going to do that for you later, but you have to have level 3 in order to do that. All right, so let me stop talking about level 3. Where was I going? Okay, we talked about applique. Let's talk about some other stuff now. This is motif run. So motif run is basically like a decorative stitch on your sewing machine. But what makes the motif run unique in this program is that you can actually build your stitches by adding more than one motif in at a time. Okay, so a motif is like a decorative stitch, and in most programs you can pick from a list of like 200 of them, right? In this, you can pick from a list of like 200 of them, but you can mix and match them. So I can go in, and here in my properties menu, I have add, I have all of these different motifs to choose from, and it's not just those, there's lists of these different sections to choose from. There's tons of these. I mean, there's satinish, you know, it's like almost like a French knot kind of thing, square ones. So say we want to do this one, it's going to automatically fill my line with the decorative stitch, right? And then I can go in and say, I want to have another one. I want to have this one and this one alternating. Okay? It's really quite neat. So now if it doesn't quite perfectly, you know, meet up, like down here, there's like this corner, it doesn't really work exactly right. I can move my points around and see if it'll generate them. Let's get rid of some of these. Okay, so you can go in and just click those points. You don't have to go into the shape tool. You just click on it and move it. Very, very easy. All right, so that is the motif. And then we can also do cool stuff with this, like rotate them. Like if I want to have these ones rotated at a 45-degree angle, say. You know, it's it's really cool. So that's the motif run. I think you kind of get the idea of what that is. It's like being able to put a decorative stitch on any shape. Any shape you can draw, any shape you can trace. So the next tool is the cross stitch tool. And what this does is it generates an area of cross stitch. So it does this as a fill. It doesn't do this as an outline. And what's unique about the way this does cross stitch is it generates a grid over, and it's invisible, you don't see the grid. It generates a grid and it puts all the cross stitch that's generated at that time on that grid, so they all are going to line up no matter what. On every other program, all the cross stitch in a single design element is going to line up, but if you have, you know, multiple shapes, they may not all line up on one grid. So like, let me turn this into something else real quick and then bring in another line. Okay, and I'll turn this into cross stitch, and oh, wait a minute. I wanted to turn them both into cross stitch at the same time. So I have to select both of them, and then have them both, turn them both into cross stitch at the same time, and they are going to line up. See how that is lined up perfectly with that? Okay, so it will take the entire area and make sure that everything is lined up as if it were on a grid. Okay, because it is. It uses a grid to place all these cross stitches, and that way you don't get a cross stitch that looks weird because the crosses don't line up, which is what you get with cross stitch embroidery that you generate using all the other programs I've ever used. So that's neat. Another thing that's good about this cross stitch is you can use it as a fill for doing towel embossing. If anybody has taken my classes where I teach how to do that Janus towel out there, which is a very, very easy technique to do. I'll show you in here. That's somewhere down the line here in my list of things to talk about. You can use this as the backdrop, as the background fill for that, to tack down the nap of the towel and have the negative space coming up. All right, so that's cross stitch. I kind of talked about fill already. Fill just basically fills an area with stitches. So another cool thing that we can do with this is the way that the stippling works in this as a fill. Now we've all seen programs that do automatic stippling. If you got a Destiny, you've got a thing that does automatic stippling. I think it first came out in Quiltworks. I remember it was like the first one that I remember being an automatic stippling thing. But the stippling in this is a little different. Let me just bring in a shape real quick. Like say, I don't want any of those. Hearts. Yeah, I guess we could do a heart. Fine. We'll bring it in. And so I want to apply stippling to this area. I just click on my stippling button. That works like you'd expect, right? We've got the spacing can be adjusted, so it makes it more or less of a meander or more or less tight. And then we can adjust the length of our stitch down here, and that's going to be the stitch length that each stitch that it takes in here. But what's different about this stipple is we can actually change some more things about it than just the distance from you know, the density of it and the stitch length of it. I can change it from a drunkard path to a curvy path, which gives it a little bit more of a curve. The drunkard's path kind of has a narrower curve that it generates. And then we also have one that looks a little more floral. They call it leafy, and it puts these little leaves in there. So that's an interesting look. We also have one that's a geometric shape. Okay, so you've got different than just your basic stipple, the ability to go in and generate them. Now, anything that's an automatically generated fill of stitches, sometimes it's going to do something that you don't want it to do. And in every other program where you generate a stippled area, you kind of have to deal with that. You know, it's like, well, what are you going to do? Draw it yourself? No, because there's no way to go in and edit the way that the software has generated the stippling. It is what it is. With this though, I can actually turn this from stippling into a run, which actually it turned it into a stem because that's the last thing that I used to run, but I'll change it back to run. So here we see that now when I select my thing, I've got all these nodes, and what can I do with nodes? I can move them around. So if I don't like the way that it placed some of these nodes, I can just go and move them. Okay, so I'm changing the shape of the stippling that it generated here. Say I want to get rid of some of these points, and I want to take this line and move it. I can do that. I can go in and completely customize the way this is. What's more, I can actually select more than one point at a time and move a whole section. Look at this. I'm just holding down my left mouse button, and I selected these 5 points, and I can move them all at the same time. Isn't that cool? I love that. Why don't they all do this? I don't know, but I'm glad that this one does. And of course, as you saw, because this is just treated as a run stitch now, I can assign different stitch types to it. So it doesn't have to be a run. I could have this be a motif.
No way.
Yeah. So let's see, we'll do this as a chain stitch, and you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. Doesn't that look cool? That doesn't look like stippling, you know? I mean, I guess it kind of does, but you know what I mean? It's neat.
That's the sashiko?
Sure. So let me take this, change it to a sashiko. See, the problem with doing a sashiko on the screen is it doesn't really show you exactly what it looks like. So what we have is a bean stitch, and then a really short single running stitch, and then a long bean stitch. That's what makes it look like a hand sewing stitch with the embroidered sashiko. Okay. So let's see. That's the stippling is really neat. Okay, so we also have. Let me bring in a different shape here. We also have a. I'm tired of hearts. I want a lightning bolt this time. Lightning bolt. All right, we also have a motif fill, of course, which is going to allow you to fill an area with a decorative stitch. Now, by default, there's no decorative stitch selected, so it's just filled it with a line. But I just go in and just like I did with my motif outline, and I can pick one of these. So say we'll do this one. Adds it in, and boom, there we go. Just like before, I can bring in more than one. And then I can change all kinds of stuff. I can change the size of them. I can change the gap between them, and really make a design element that's all my own. And maybe I want to have a border stitch around this. Of course, I can take every element that I create, copy and paste it, and turn it into something else. So now I've got a satin stitch going around this decorative fill. Okay, I mean, I can think of all kinds of applications for this type of thing, and that's cool.
What level are you on?
This is level 1. We haven't gotten out of level 1 yet. This is all $200.
Usually they do it the other way.
Yeah.
They used to put the digitizing.
He's insane. I don't know why the price is this way. It's nuts, but it is what it is. You get all of this stuff. I mean, you get even more stuff when we go up to level 2. And if I was somebody that wanted to create really, really professional looking designs, I would actually want to have level 3 because of the artwork tools that it gives you. And I'll show you what those are in a minute. For instance, if you want to do that split applique design thing, it is so much easier in level 3 than if I was going to try and do it in here. I could do it in here. That's the thing. With level 1, you could make anything with level 1. but it doesn't give you some of the automatic tools for dealing with artwork segments that makes digitizing easy for doing like logo work or really fancy monograms and stuff like that. Like sitting there and hand making a split applique would take forever. And that's why the Destiny thing was so cool, because you can actually do that on the machine and it's not that hard. But with the right tools, you can make a split applique like that. And so that's the difference. So we can do all kinds of stuff in this, and all the stuff that I'm showing you is awesome, but when we get into level 2 and 3, they do more awesome stuff too. Yeah.
What's the largest size design that you can create using this tool?
As far as I'm aware, there's no limit. The limit would be the size of your embroidery machine.
Brad, if you wanted to duplicate that and twist it so that you're getting like a star effect, could you do that?
If you had embroidery works, you could. Yeah, this is not an editing program, like I said. This is digitizing only. So if you want to be able to take this and combine it with other design elements automatically and have it turn it into like a fan-looking design, you would need to have either Embroidery Works, which works perfectly with this program. It mates with it. It's the same program, essentially. So if you already have that, hey, perfect. You can do that. Or you could use some other editing program that you already own. Floriani, Masterworks, whatever would be fine. Custom Works, if you got that. But this is creating a design, and then arranging a design, that's the business of another program. And that's one of the reasons that the software is so inexpensive, is that, you know, it's just a digitizing program. That's what it is. It digitizes. All right, last thing I want to show you in level 1 is going to be the freestanding lace. How many of you have ever tried to make freestanding lace with embroidery software? Yeah, it's really, really hard to do it and have it actually stay together and not fall apart when you try and sew it out. It's easy to make it look good on the computer. Then when you go and sew it out and you rinse the water-soluble stabilizer and everything falls apart. This is probably my favorite part of this, is the way that this lace works, because I think it's just so darn neat, especially because I have an 1.5-hour video teaching you how to hand digitize lace, which nobody ever watched because it's really, really boring. It's in Floriani Total Control U. It's like how to make freestanding lace the easy way or something like that, and it's not easy at all. So, it's, well, basically, I'll show you what it is. Let me bring in an element real quick, let's see, I need a shape. I'm not going to do a horsey. I don't want to do a kite. That's like a diamond. We'll do a cross. All right, we'll do this cool cross here. All right, so we're going to turn this into lace, right? All you have to do is hit the button, and it turns it into the base for freestanding lace. Now, do any of you remember the Dining and Lace program?
Yes.
This is the lace software that he used to create the lace in Dining and Lace. Okay, you could create everything from Dining and Lace in this. So this is the background netting that was adjustable by moving the sliders around in Dining and Lace. So I can go in here and adjust the density of this. I can adjust the stitch length to make it, you know, tighter stitching. And I can change this from freestanding to single. Now, if I was going to use this as to tap down the nap of a towel for doing towel embossing, I would put it on a single. But for freestanding, you put it on double. That means it goes, every line that you see in there, it goes at least twice. And this is one continuous line. It does not stop. It does not stop and cut. It just goes all the way through the design. So if I take this and go, this is like a stitch simulator. This is going, and it travels along the outside of it when it goes from one part of the design to the other. That's why you see it skipping around. When it skips around, it's going around like this to get to the other side of it. And then it'll go through the whole thing once, and it'll go through the whole thing again. Okay? That's how you do freestanding lace. That's how it's made, is to do that. Now, you also have the option with this to change it from this style to a more open diamond, like that, so the netting changes. Now, could I take this and sew it out and have freestanding lace that would actually be freestanding? No. What do I need? Need a border. I need a satin stitch. I need something to hold all that together. So the cool thing about the way that the satin stitch works on this is there is an option to tell it that you're using it for freestanding lace. So the satin stitch has always been not the hardest part, but you have to like turn on every single underlay and then kind of draw your own underlay in to make a freestanding lace border that's not going to get all wavy and turn into like a lettuce edge looking thing, because it's just not dense enough to stand up to being freestanding. And with this, it does it automatically. So I select my shape, copy it, paste it, turn the other part of it into a satin stitch. I go into the underlay, tell it it's freestanding. That's it. That's a freestanding lace. So here's one that I sewed out, and I made it like a gift tag. Okay, and I'll pass it around if you wanna play with it. I didn't rinse the stabilizer out very well, so it's pretty stiff. But I put a little hole in it, so you could put it says "To Meadow from Daddy." And I didn't give it to her, it's a sample. But but I put a hole in it so I could go in and put a string and like tie it to a birthday present or something like that. So that's just an idea. I mean, you could make, I used Fabri-Solvi actually. That's what I used. 2 layers of it. Sewed it right out on top of it, and then I didn't rinse it out all the way, that's why it's kind of stiff. Yeah.
You can make a Christmas tree hanging with that too.
Absolutely, yeah, you definitely can. Yep. You could even make, if you, yeah.
Can you put on top of this design, or that was my question, I was gonna ask you. You have other designs on top of that, like pots.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, with the sample that's going around, that's what I did. You just have to, you can't take the lace netting and make it any less dense than it is by default.
No, but I'm saying you can put other designs over it.
Yes, as long as you don't make the netting any less dense than the default, then yes, it'll work. Okay, that is the default density, the one that I'm passing around, and I sewed small letters on it. I can't imagine that if you made it any less dense than that the letters or whatever you're embroidering is gonna stay in the netting for the freestanding lace very well. Okay, so just don't change your density too low, or yeah, too low, so that there's enough for the stitches that go on top of the netting to grip. In the back?
Cut shapes out of it, like, and then remove?
Yeah, you can. You definitely can. And that's actually the thing that I'm passing around has done that. And the way that you do it is very simple. You just bring in another shape. So, I need a shape. Let's say a circle. All right, and we'll size the circle down even more. Bring this in here, and I actually need 2 of this circle, right? I need 2 of it because I need one of them to be a satin stitch border and the other one to be the hole. So I'm going to copy and paste it so that there's 2. And then I'm going to take the lace and one of the circles and combine them. Tell it combine with hole is what that is. That's what that little thing that I just clicked on said, combine with hole. So that made the hole, and then I make the other circle into a satin stitch, and that's how you would do that. Very easy.
And then you just make it a thinner satin stitch?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. So you select your stitch, and then I would just go in and change my width down. Yeah, that was ridiculously wide, that's true.
Okay, there we go.
Can you click again to get those preferences? But you're going so fast, I don't know.
I'm sorry, it's just anytime you click on anything,
Oh, okay. That brings it up.
the properties will come up. You don't actually have to click on a special button somewhere to get to the preferences. Yes?
What kind of fabric do you use to make it see-through like that?
Oh, that was water-soluble stabilizer. I used one called Fabri-Solvi, which is the fabric-like wash-away stabilizer. And then it goes, the stabilizer goes away.
So then, Brad, how did you bring in the lettering?
Well, actually, I used Embroidery Works for that. But if you didn't have Embroidery Works, you would have to import the lettering from another program because, or you could use the TrueType fonts and digitize some lettering yourself. But if you wanted to use something that had automatic lettering, either it's Embroidery Works or you're going to use another program that you have to bring the letters in. Because like I said, this is just a digitizing program, it's not a lettering program. But if you have Embroidery Works, then you have the lettering from Embroidery Works built into it.
Throw it in your machine, pull that up?
Yeah, sure you could. Absolutely. You could bring it in. Yeah, to bring it in from your machine, absolutely. You take this, save it, and then use your machine's lettering to put it on top of there. Give me 1 second. I'm about to cough. I don't want to do it into this microphone.
We've all done it.
Excuse me. Okay, how much time do I have here? Am I running low on time?
Your mom said to go to 1:15.
Oh, she said, okay, she said to go to 1:15. All right, good.
You got a half hour then, almost.
All right, perfect. Okay, so let's get out of level 1, go to level 2. Level 1, that's pretty cool though, right? For $200, it does a lot of neat stuff. I was completely blown away when Brian Bailey showed me this. Speaking of Brian Bailey, did any of you guys watch the video that I did with Brian Bailey, the creator of this program? That was so much fun doing that. And it was just kind of neat, you know, being able to kind of mess around and talk to him about the way that he designed the program. All right. It's on my YouTube channel. Okay, as good a spot as any to show you how to get to and use my YouTube channel in case you don't know. There are 2 easy ways to do it. Number 1 is if you go to our website, which is sewfair.com, SEWFAIR.com. That's our website. If you go there, in the upper left-hand corner, there's an icon that says YouTube. Okay, and if you click on that, it will take you straight to my YouTube channel. And here is where all the videos are. So I put all the videos, or at least I try to remember to, put them into playlists. So you can look for the playlist with the name of whatever it is, the program that you're trying to find out about. For instance, if you want to learn how to use Embroidery Works, you scroll down this page until you see something titled Embroidery Works right here. Okay, we see that? If you click on this, the word Embroidery Works, it's going to come up with a list of all of the tutorial videos that I've made for you guys that is about Embroidery Works. And all you got to do is just left click on the name of one of these videos and it comes up. And then you can watch it. Now I have the sound turned off on the projector so you're not going to be able to hear, but I'm talking throughout these and I edit them so that I zoom in so you can see when I'm hitting buttons and I tell you exactly what button I'm hitting and all of that good stuff. So that's how you get to my channel, and I have already begun uploading the videos from the previous classes for this Sew Fair, so I've got 2 of them so far. Each one takes me about 3 hours to edit, so that's why I don't have them all up yet. But like here, this is the Fearless Free Motion class. You can click on that, and this is, you can see the sky view, and then when it's time, I switch the camera view so you can actually see what she's doing up close and personal, as if you're sitting here looking at the projector screen.
And I watched that last night, it's very good.
All right, well, good, thanks. Well, I mean, I didn't do the class, but, I did the editing. So, what was I doing here? So those are up, the rest will be up soon. Now, if the other way that you can get to the videos is if you go to our Facebook page. I am posting, each time I put up one of the videos for Sew Fair, I'm putting them up on Facebook, so you'll be able to get to them that way too.
How do you get the Facebook link?
I'm sorry. If you go on Facebook, you just search for Ellicott City Sovac, and we're there. Make sure you like us. I actually send out specials for people that like us on Facebook. I send out specials sometimes that, like, I'll get a used machine, and I'll be like, hey, if anybody wants this machine, this is the first crack at it. So anyway, that's just an aside. Internet, how to get to my videos. So it's good to be able to get to them so you can watch them. All right, so level 2. Now this version of the program that I'm using is, they call it an educator version. I can switch between levels at will. Yours is not going to do this. So I click on this button and it changes the level of the program. So now we're at level 2. Okay, so level 2 lets us do some more stuff. One of the things that it gives us is the ability to directly import a vector image. So we didn't actually have the ability to take a vector image and bring it right in. And by vector image, I mean it's a type of artwork that is made entirely out of outlines. A lot of computer graphic people will have vector images of whatever it is, like their logo or something that they want to do. And if you have that, then you have the ability to turn it kind of directly into stitches. It's already an outline. Okay, so it's like these images that were in our catalog of designs that we had built into it, but they're outside of the program. There's something that somebody made outside of this program. Anyway, we don't need to play with vector files really. That's not the main attraction here, the fact that it opens up vector files, because you guys are not likely to run into vector files in the wild anyway.
Would that be like downloading the logo for my son's company to make sure it's...
Yeah, but chances are he's not going to have it as a vector file. He's going to have it as a JPEG, and you're going to have to create the artwork using either the magic wand or tracing it in yourself, unless he's got the vector file, you know, for the logo. Most people don't, though, unless they're like a professional.
I've got an old T-shirt that says, "Here, Mom, can you do it like this?"
Right. New stitch tools. Oh, that's right. We've got some new stitch tools to play with. If you look over here, we have expanded by 2. So let me just create an area real quick. I'll use a custom shape. I like this lightning bolt. I'm going to do the lightning bolt again. I think it's going to look neat with the thing that I have in mind. All right, so let's make it bigger. Yeah, shift. Yeah, you hold down shift when you do that, and it keeps it in the same place, which is nice. All right, so the first one is they call it a program motif or French knot tool. If you turn this on, these are some motifs that are not built in to level 1, and it does a real French knot. I'm told that that's what it does. If I'm being honest, I have no idea what a real French knot is. So somebody made a big deal out of it being a real French knot at one point. So it's a real French knot, if that matters to you. And then it also has candle wick. And then we can change the sizes and change the settings between them. So I could have this, for instance, if I wanted to, I could have this on top of a satin stitch by... Yeah, I've seen that in some designs before, where you had like a French knot design on top of a satin stitch for a decorative effect. So if I had 2 of these and I made the first one into a satin outline, and then made them wide enough, you see what I'm saying there? It puts like a decorative thing on top of it. So like I could make this a different color. That's ugly. You get the idea, though. So you can do something like that with it. I think I remember seeing that in one of the interactives. Anyway.
Does it take that underlayer off?
Yes, it will attempt to. Just like embroidery works, if you have something overlapped, it will attempt to remove the stitching that's underneath. And for something like that, you would probably want to turn that off. I had to turn that off for my lace work there, because it was actually trying to take the stitches from underneath the lettering out of the lace, and that would make it fall apart. You don't want to do that. So I had to turn that off for that. So you probably would want to for something like that candle wicking too. So that's the one thing. But the one that really excites me is the contour button. Okay, now this, if you've got Masterworks or if you've got Floriani, this is what's referred to as the Echo quilting, but this does it a cooler way. Hang on. Sorry, I don't want to do that in your ears. It would be loud. All right, so check this out. We hit this button, and look what it just did. It traces the contour of the outline that you have selected and fills it in with these repeats. Okay, now I can do this the other way too, so it traces both ways. So check this out. I'm going to copy this and paste it. So there's 2, and the second one, I'm going to tell it to echo the line outward. Look at that, isn't that neat? And then I can take this and change, okay, so I can change the offset so that it's closer together, and then change the number of steps. Isn't that a cool like quilting design looking thing? I love that. I love it. Okay, and then I think you can change this somehow. No. Maybe not. I thought for a second you could change that into like a satin stitch or something, but I don't think you can. Yeah?
Is there any way of factoring or figuring how much thread it's going to take?
Is there any way to figure out how much thread it's using? Not with this program, but there is, oh, you know what, maybe. Now that I think about it, if you go and do, yeah, I think Embroidery Works does, and I think that it's, yeah, it tells you how many stitches, but I think it also tells you how much yardage of thread you're using. I don't remember how to do it in this if you can, but yeah, it shows you the stitch number down on the bottom. Sorry. Had this cold for like a week. I'll have Kathy use a different microphone for the next class. All right, so what was I talking about? Oh yeah, a program that I know does do that is Studio. Designer's Gallery Studio will estimate the amount of thread that a design uses. Instead of just going by stitches, you can't really tell by the number of stitches how many yards of thread something's going to use. But you can with Embroidery, or not Embroidery Works, maybe Embroidery Works, I don't remember, but Studio 3. Or Studio Plus, but they both do it. Where was I going with this? Okay, so the contour thing, that is really neat, and I'm gonna do something else with that in a bit. But I want to show you the thing that I was trying to show you, and I was confused as to what I was doing. It's basically you can draw a satin stitch in level 2 in a much more professional way. Remember in level 1, to create my satin stitch, it was kind of automatic, and I didn't have a lot of control over the way the stitch direction was going. So I would go in and I would draw my satin area, and this is for a filled in satin, not an outline satin. So I would go in and do this, and it would do it automatically with one button, just like that, but I don't have control over the exact stitch direction for the whole shape here, okay? So there are times when I'm trying to use this tool and it does something wonky. It decides to do something in the wrong order, or the stitches get all crazy. With an automatic tool like this, it's never going to be totally perfect all of the time. So there's going to be times when you're going to want to draw your own satin stitches in. And level 2 allows you to do that. And the way that you do it, you've got two options. One is the way that I don't like, and the other is the way that I do like. The way that I don't like, if you are somebody who's used Origins or Palette in the past, or Generations, I think, the alternating left-right input method, which is also known as manual punch, where you click and click and click and click and click and click. And the second click is the stitch direction as I do this. Anybody remember doing this in the past? I hate this. Can't stand it. All this can be yours with level 2 digitizing, stuff that I hate. No, but it gives you this, and for a lot of people that are used to using certain digitizing programs, this would be very comforting for them to have, because it's the way that it used to always be done. What I think is the much easier way, and the one that I would use personally if I was going to do this, is the two-side method. And the way that this works is, let's bring up an image so I have something to trace this time. Whatever, we'll do this pumpkin again. I wanted to have more images, but I kept getting interrupted. I should have done it earlier, I guess, but what are you gonna do? All right, here we go. So the way that this works is you first trace the outside edge of the shape that you're tracing. And I'm just left clicking here, remember? Okay, so once you're done the outside edge, you then right click and then start generating the inside edge. It's going to automatically close the shape for me after I right click again, and then I can put in my inclinations for the direction that the stitches are going to go. So this gives me all the control in the world of how my satin stitch is going to look. Okay, so you don't always have to do that, but if you're doing a really complex shape, once you get a little more advanced, it's much nicer to have this level of control over the way that your stitches are going to go. So I mean, that's why this level 2 is more, you know, you're getting into the, I want to like seriously create embroidery designs designs, and I want to have professional tools to do that. I'm sorry?
I say, what about underlay? Can you control?
Oh, yes, you can absolutely control the underlay. If I go in and I select this, I have this tab here where I can choose these different underlays. I can change how far away they are. I can turn this into freestanding lace if I wanted to. I have the ability to add a pattern on top of this if I wanted to. So I could make this have like little waves embossed in it. It's kind of hard to see them the way that it generates the 3D here, but it changes the pattern of the way my satin stitches go. You also have the ability to take a column and split it. So if you have too wide of a column stitch, what happens is the sewing machine refuses to sew it out. You can actually do a split column, which you may have seen some on some designs where you've got a satin stitch that's like this wide and it looks like it's got ribs in it. That's a split column. So you can actually do that in this too. You can also have it feather the edges. See how that just feathered the edge of my column there? Yeah, me too. But you can do it in this, you know, hey, some people like it. What else can we do? Oh, we can adjust pull compensation. And remember, all we have to do is set it once, and then everything else I draw, those settings are gonna come in. And not only that, if I had a whole bunch of shapes in here, I'm just gonna do something silly and just wand in a whole bunch of shapes at once. And make them different things. We'll make this one a fill, we'll make this one a fill, we'll make this one a satin border. All right, so I've got these, two of these are the same thing, and two of these are different than everything else. If I select everything, I get all of the tabs for everything that I have selected, and anything that I change is only gonna affect those things. So I've got my satin border stitch, I can go in and change the stitch width. It only affects the satin border stitch, but it's all in the same properties menu. You follow me? So rather than have to click on each individual thing, I can select everything and say, okay, all the runs are gonna be like this, all the fills are gonna be like this, all the satin stitches are gonna be like this. That's pretty cool. I like that. All right, one last thing about level 2 before I get into level 3. I know I'm running short here. Is the auto sequencer. What the auto sequencer, or not auto sequencer, the manual sequencer. Let me just show you what it does. If you're digitizing a design, this one was the one I wanted to use for this, and when you're digitizing a design, you ought to digitize everything in the order that it is going to sew out. What generally happens though is, at least for part of it, you will need to change your mind about what's going to sew out when. And so the way that this sequencer works, this is in level 2. I can go in and wand in an area, and we'll just wand in this area, and then I'm going to go and wand in another area. I need some areas.
When you're watching your time,
When do I need to stop?
like at 6 minutes.
All right. So, all right, and then let's see, we'll wand in this area.
You gave me 15 minutes extra.
Well, you made me start late. Okay, so anyway, we've got some areas in here. Oh, you know what? I missed this one. Okay, so this is all out of order. This is sewing out in such a weird, crazy order because I didn't digitize it, you know, in order of the way that it ought to sew out. So what I can do is I hit this button here, it's sequence objects by selecting one at a time, and I can tell it what order to sew things out. So I can say, okay, first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, and there was one of them that I missed that I didn't digitize. But it just put everything in that order that I clicked everything in. So that way you don't have to click and drag to move your elements in the sequence view. Oh, this has got to move up 1, this has got to move down 2, you know, which I hate doing that, which is why I try to nail it in everybody's head to digitize it in the right order.
How would you handle that in level 1?
In level 1, what you'd have to do is go in this sequence here and manually drag everything into the order that you want it to go, which can be very difficult when you have a lot of shapes that look similar.
What did you do on that one?
I just clicked on them in order, and it automatically sequenced them in the sequence that I clicked. So this has been level 2. I know I've got like no time at all for level 3, but I want to show you one thing in level 3. File, new page. All right, switch to level 3. There we go. So check this out. If I bring in,
Oh, okay. Oh, neat, the whole thing.
all right, so I've brought in some letters. It's Meadow's name. I'm going to stretch them out a little bit. I just want to make them a little taller. All right, check this out. I'm going to go in and take each one of these,
Oh, neat.
get them overlapped a little bit. I'm not going to even have time to do this right. So I'm just going to have to explain to you.
Just stay till she runs you out.
Yeah.
Level 3, what you get with level 3 primarily is artwork editing features, where I can take outlines like these and do things like, all right, so the first one is going to be Union, which is this one. Boom. Okay, and what that has done is it leaves my original artwork and it creates a new piece of artwork that has been joined, oops, come on, man, that has been joined together. I don't want all of it. I want just this one. So I just wanted to spread that out so you can see. Okay, you see what this has done? It's joined it all together. And then I can take this and turn it into an applique.
So, Brad, you can still take and make a SVGs for the
Yep, absolutely. I just go in and I tell it to save it. I've inflated a little bit, save it, good to go. Isn't that neat? I love that.
Send it to your car.
How much is the whole one?
The whole version is, to pre-order, is $6.99.
Is that the show price?
That's the show price.
That's the main difference. So, what else is
Well, there's some other stuff, but I'm like low on time here.
About 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so,
What's the cool thing with 3?
okay, let's see, I can do,
You were gonna do the towel.
okay, oh yeah, the towel thing. Well, the towel thing I could do in level 1, but I forgot to show you the towel embossing. You could do that in level 1 though. All right, let me delete what I have here. So remember the split applique thing I was talking about?
Yeah.
Cancel. There. We'll do a split applique M, of course, M for Meadow. All right, and then we bring in our other shape is going to be a square.
This is available in which, 3?
Yeah, this is 3. What we're doing right now is 3. Oh, and I forgot to mention, this is Mac compatible, by the way. You can install this program on a Mac, and also you can install it as many times as you want on as many computers as you want. There's no dongles, there's no activation code that you can lose. You can install it on all the computers in your house 6 times if you wanted.
Say how the upgrades will be when it's time to upgrade.
They'll be paid upgrades eventually. I mean, it's come out with several updates already, but the upgrades are going to be paid. There's probably going to be a level 4 someday. All right, so before I get kicked out of here, the next thing that we can do with this, which one is that, is subtract. Boom. Okay, so that just cut out the middle of that shape. Now I can bring in straight line satin stitches there and turn these into appliques. So I would bring in a straight line. Here. Satin. Make that into applique. I don't have time to go in and fix it so that it's exactly right. This is the general idea though, okay, where we take the shape and, yeah, that's ugly, and we turn each one of these elements into a satin, not satin, an applique, and so, and then I could go in and cut each element out, simulated. All right, so I'd be able to cut each element of this out and have something else written down here in the middle. So I could have the big M and then the word meadow. Can't even spell my own daughter's name. Right in the middle, and then I need to go in and edit this line a little bit to make that turn into a perfect shape. But that's the idea, and you can do that in this pretty easily. One last thing, okay, I promise. If you have something that is existing stitches, okay, now I'm generating these letters in Embroidery Works here. It doesn't matter where you get the stitches from. You also have the ability to take any amount of stitches and create an outline from them. Okay, so I just created this outline using existing stitches. It can be from any embroidery design. It will automatically create an outline around them that you can then take and do what's called an inflate.
How did they take it out of order?
I don't know. And then I can take my inflate and do a union, and then I've got this union I can turn into a contour.
Neat.
It's really, really nifty. I mean, there's a bunch of other stuff I can do with this. I could put a nice border around each one of my letters with a motif stitch, you know. So this is all stuff, though, that you can only do in level 3, is the ability to take existing stitches and create an echo around them in this way. That's the only way. Last thing, oh God, I forgot. In level 1 through 3, you can do this. It's called a knockdown stitch. It's for embroidering on a towel, like what Kathy was telling you about doing with the stippling stitch. You can do that in this automatically. I just need an embroidery design. Again, I'm going to use lettering. Such a narcissist. All right, check this out. One button, utility, knockdown stitching.
Oh my God.
Okay, what that does is it knocks down the nap of the towel, or the particularly those furry animals over there. This works great on those. It'll knock down that. You just match the knockdown stitching to the animals. Both programs will do that. Embroidery Works will do it with any embroidery design that exists. Creator will do it only with embroidery designs that you are digitizing. Okay, if you got both, it'll do it for either one.
Brad, it's not down the letters.
Huh?
It's not down the letters, right?
No, it's the outside.
Did you get outside knocked down?
Oh, it's all of it.
Oh, it's the whole,
The whole thing is knocked down, but it's really loose.
okay, so that it keeps it from popping straight.
What
Yeah,
I'm talking about is just the letters themselves, right?
yeah,
Okay, how to do just the outside and leave the letters up?
you don't.
Well, I'm asking, can you?
No, not with that tool.
Okay.
It does it automatically. But it does it I mean, the way that this works is excellent. This is ideal. The way that it does this is ideal. And I have videos that teach you how to create a knockdown stitch in Masterworks and Floriani and something else, and it's like nowhere near as easy as this. This is the best way to create a knockdown stitch for sewing on towels. All right, so that's it. My time is up. I hope that. Thank you. Hope you guys understand more what the software is all about now. Go forth and eat.